Welcome to today's episode of Relationships Turned On. Today's episode is all about micro cheating. What is it? How can you avoid it? How do you know if it's happening to you? If it's happened to you, then what can you do to actually rebuild the relationship and get it back on track? Now, micro cheating might seem like a funny term. I'm going to go into it, what it means, and all the things. It's happening more and more. And I'm seeing it in clinics so often. That's why we are doing an episode on it today, because it's such an important topic. And to be honest, the world we live in gives rise to so many opportunities to micro cheat, which is very sad, but unfortunately the truth. But before we go into today's episode, I just want to do a personal share with you today, something that I'm focusing on. I'm really focusing on the less is more principle in my own personal life, whether it be around organization, the amount of stuff I have, like all sorts of things, really focusing on quality over quantity. Now, we're in a very busy season in our lives with kids and kids going in all different directions, and we homeschool, we have a hobby farm, we have a lot actually happening in our lives. My husband does shift work, which means he works 2 12-hour days and then 2 12-hour nights. So it's a lot, right? And then he obviously has to sleep for a day, basically. And so how do we manage all this with so many moving parts, so much going on? And I really believe the focus is on quality over quantity and less is more. So instead of cramming in like 100 relationship actions into our week, we will focus on quality connection time, even if it's for shorter periods of time. We will focus on the next best step for our relationship versus 100 things that we could be doing. Obviously, I know a million things we could be doing, but it's really important to hone in on what actually meets one another's needs and what gives kind of the best bang for your buck, even though you're not buying it. Same goes in all other areas. So if I'm going to exercise, then it's like, well, what's going to give me the best bang for my buck or the best quality over quantity? Now, is it going to be on the treadmill for an hour or is it just a half an hour weight session? So like you can see in all different areas of my life right now, I'm really focusing on quality. I don't have the energy necessarily to focus on a million things. And the thing is, when you focus on so many things, you often do them poorly. So you want to focus on whether it's one thing on your health, one thing for your relationship, one thing for your finances, and dial that in. And this is really the step-by-step process we take with counseling too. I can give you a million actions, but let's focus on the quality ones, the ones that are going to move the needle the most in your relationship. Same with health. What's going to move the needle the most? Maybe it's something really simple, just like drinking 2 liters of water, eating more protein. Let's not overcomplicate things and let's simplify things. I think we have so much information available to us, which is awesome, but it really makes things complex and we don't know where to begin and we don't know where to start. So we do nothing. And I think this is really like the epidemic that we're kind of in right now, is that we don't know where to begin. We don't know where to start. So I want you to think, what's one thing you can pick for your relationship right now to move the relationship forward? That's quality. Is it 10 minutes of quality time together each day? Is it picking up the phone and having a really good conversation without the kids around? What is it that could be quality for you? Is it dropping a gift over to a friend who you know is having a hard time? That's going to foster that relationship and be a quality use of your time. What is the quality thing you could be doing in your relationship or in your life? In all areas. I really believe you can sit down and actually go into all the areas of your life and just do one thing. What's one thing for each of them? It's a really great exercise to do. So that's something I've been focusing on. But now for today's episode, again, like I said, it's really about micro cheating. What is it and why it hurts? So something I see in clinic a lot at the moment is micro cheating. And sometimes it'll be like having a flirty conversation with somebody else, maybe someone of the opposite sex. Is not necessarily classed as cheating, but it's clearly crossing a boundary, right? And there are all these kind of nuances, like following people on Instagram that are half naked all the time, like people giving somebody else of the opposite sex a hug for way too long, or being overly affectionate, like on the shoulder and touching all the time. So there are all these like examples of micro cheating. Now, everyone is going to view this very differently. Those examples I've just given you, some will say they're not cheating at all and some say they will. That is fine, because here's the thing. It is important for each couple to determine what is cheating for them. It's important to determine what is micro cheating, what's cheating. And to be honest, like, I don't know that it really matters the difference between micro cheating and cheating. It's all cheating, right? Or it's the intent behind it. Now, let's be clear. Sometimes we don't understand, or we think that it's fine and the other person thinks it's not. So then it's about coming together and like going, okay, well, what is actually appropriate in our relationship? And another example could be using a pet name that you use for your spouse with somebody else. Those things, I've been in a lot of conversations around those types of things, can really undermine the relationship. And here's why it hurts. Because it is sometimes a bit bigger than a small break in trust in your relationship that starts you questioning your partner that you never did before. And that's the problem. That's why it really hurts, especially when you're using, say, like a pet name for somebody else, because they think it's special and unique to them, and then you're using it for someone else. It removes all the specialness and all the uniqueness. So same things with emojis. I've had millions of conversations around using different emojis. They're the same things you'd send to me, and then you send it to somebody else. And so I don't feel as special. I don't feel as unique. I don't feel as loved anymore. Like, how do I know you're not sending them to 10,000 other people? So it's really, really important with social media, with technology, with all these different things now. It's easy. It's a slippery slope, right? It's quite easy to get stuck in those traps. So it's really important to have clear, healthy boundaries between you and your partner. And maybe once upon a time, no one needed to talk about these things because it was all just in-person interactions. It was pretty clear cut. You know what I mean? Keep your hands to yourself, all that kind of stuff. It was very, very clear cut. Today's day and age, it is not so clear cut. Plus, we have different cultures. We have different cultures where we believe it's acceptable, some where it's not. It's just all kind of all over the shop, and no one's clear. No one has clarity. And therefore, people think they're doing the right thing when often it's actually pushing your partner's boundaries. Very important to actually look at this and really think about it. So other examples of micro cheating could be secretly messaging an ex. Now, maybe it has nothing nefarious in the context, but you're still doing it behind your partner's back. Keeping DMs private, flirting just for fun. All these things break trust. So while it's not, sure, you didn't go and sleep with someone, it still breaks trust. Okay. And emotional cheating is a real thing. Many conversations around this too, and the nuances and all the things, whatever. You can go round and round and round. I just want to say this. I want to say if it breaks trust in your relationship, it's not good. If it steps over or pushes a boundary, it's not good. It breaks trust. It takes time to rebuild the connection with you and your partner. It takes time to rebuild the trust. So what you want to do is you want to put all of these protective mechanisms essentially in place so your relationship becomes unshakable. So you know what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. So you know what's a healthy boundary for your relationship and what's not. Now, don't look at the couple next door or the couple that you're best friends with for their boundaries. Their boundaries won't align with your values, your beliefs, and what you've been raised with, and same with the other person. You have to talk to your partner only. Forget society. Usually society has crazy ideas anyway, and usually they end up in tears. I know I probably shouldn't say that, but it's true. Some of the crazy articles I'm reading about relationships right now do not promote a healthy, happy relationship. They promote mistrust, this freedom concept. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for freedom. I believe you can have so much freedom within a loving relationship, but they promote all sorts of strange ideas. And so you have to be clear on what you and your partner want, because that's what really matters. And that's what you'll both be able to stick to. Now, obviously, sometimes we have to have compromises because you might have two polar beliefs, and that's completely fine, but you do need to talk about it, see why you hold those polar beliefs, and then come together and go, all right, well, what's right for us? What should this look like? Now, I want to give you 10 tips on what to do when micro cheating happens, because this is something couples come to me all the time about this, and they say, the trust is just broken now and I don't know what to do. I don't know if we can get it back. Now, here's the good news. You definitely can get it back, but you need to follow some clear things. One, don't ignore it. If something feels off, don't brush it aside. Micro cheating really can erode trust over time. And sometimes we think, well, it's okay. But if it's gnawing at you and you can feel it, like, don't ignore that, because usually the micro cheating might progress into something bigger. And also it's affecting the trust in your relationship. So it's best to kind of like, I do the Band-Aid approach, like talk about it, address it, get support if you need to, because that's very important. The second one is to pause and reflect. Now, sometimes you need to really ask yourself, am I overthinking this, or is this a real boundary violation? Trust your instincts, but also check your emotions. So sometimes, like, our instincts are usually pretty right, but sometimes our emotions take hold and we catastrophize things. Sometimes things are not as they seem. So we need to have a conversation with our partner before going, this is what's happened. Actually talk to each other. I know, crazy notion. Number 3, communicate calmly, right? So let them know, like, hey, I noticed this. It made me feel kind of uncomfortable. Can we talk about it? So don't go, hey, you did this, you did that. Like, keep it open, keep it calm and conversational, and let them talk to you about it so you know all the information before jumping to conclusions. Because oftentimes people do jump into conclusions and they think it's more than what it is. 4 is, again, like I said, define boundaries together. Every couple has different boundaries. That is okay. But you need to agree what feels respectful and right for you and your partner. And then I really want you to look at the patterns. So is this a one-time slip, or is this a repeated behavior over and over and over? Is it a pattern of secrecy or flirting that can signal deeper issues? Sometimes there is so much more going on than just like the surface level behavior, that it's really important to get support, whether it be individually or as a couple, so you can move beyond that. And number 6 is really check intentions and impact. So was this micro cheating intentional? Was it thoughtless? Was it meant to hurt you? Was it not meant to hurt you? Actually, intent does matter. People say intent doesn't matter because the action matters. Intent matters a whole lot. If we have really honestly stuffed up unintentionally, we never meant to cross any boundaries, that is a different kettle of fish until like, yeah, I knew I was doing it and it was wrong. There's so many nuances to this, right? So really check in, was it intentional or thoughtless? And then we need to rebuild trust. This is the big one. Now, rebuilding trust is, I love Brené Brown's quote for this. It's a growing marble collection. So rebuilding trust is putting one marble in the jar at a time. Rebuilding trust is words and actions matching and you're repeatedly showing up and showing that in the small and the big things. So don't ever neglect the small things in a relationship. People be like, oh, well, I said I'd get a cup of tea for them, but I never did. That erodes trust because then they start to think, well, they're never going to, next time they offer, they're not going to do it anyway. And then like it just starts a cascade of questioning the other person. You don't want to be in that position. Words and actions must match in the big and the small things. Really, really important. And number 8 is to really strengthen your emotional connection. So sometimes cheating or emotional cheating or micro cheating can occur when emotional needs are not being met. So you really need to invest timing, like quality time, affection, deeper conversations, really talking things through so you know what's happening with one another. And 9 is to also hold yourself accountable too, because this isn't about blaming. Relationships are a two-way street. So like, are there ways you can be more present? You can be more connected. You can be more involved in the relationship. You can support the other person better. Sometimes it can be a situation where they've been in a season of busy, life's been crazy and they haven't had time for each other. And that's why these things can happen. Not all the time. Other times it's filling a void or not feeling good enough. Like there's a few reasons here. But it's important to also accept your part in it. If there was, sometimes there's not, right? Every situation is very unique and different. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you've been an amazing partner and all the things and they're just looking to fill the void in themselves. And other times maybe there has been a bit of a breakdown in the relationship in terms of connection, time together, that type of thing. Number 10 is obviously you've got to really decide what you're willing to accept. Now, if micro cheating continues despite like open conversations or getting support, like, is this a relationship where I feel safe, valued, and respected? You can rebuild trust. You can rebuild connection. Absolutely. You can get support for all of these things. And I think it's just really, really important to just know, is this an ongoing pattern? Is this something that you feel safe with or not? I would love to know, what are your thoughts? What are your questions? Please drop them below and hit subscribe. I've got some awesome episodes coming out for you shortly as well that I would hate for you to miss. If you got some value from this episode, please let me know, because obviously it takes a bit to put out content and I always want to put out the best things for you. So if you've got a topic, drop it below and I'd love to hear from you so I can make content around the topic you're interested in. Thank you so much for listening.